Right now, we have our last session before a short interval, and then we move on to the Rising Stars Awards. But what an important session. I can see the room filling up because we've talked all day about the duopoly. Where does that leave publishers? What's the role for media owners? And what we'd all like to know is how Facebook sees the world. So to help us answer that question, we're going to welcome back James Hewes, of course, the President and CEO of FIPP. And he's going to be interviewing the Director of Media Partnerships for EMEA for Facebook, Patrick Walker. So please welcome them both.
Hello, everyone. Where do you like? If you go on my right, that'd be fantastic. Here? Yeah, it's fine. Thank you. Okay, great. Well, Patrick, welcome. Thank you very much for coming. It's a great honor for us to have you here, and thank you for taking the time.
Yeah.
We haven't got a lot of time, so I'm going to jump straight in with the first question.
Sure.
I'm, of course, going to ask you the question that you already get asked every single time. But before I do that, I'd like you just to tell everybody a little bit about what your role entails at Facebook.
Sure. I've traveled from West London, not that far. I'm actually from Seattle originally, but I've been in the UK for about 17 years. I've been with Facebook about 14 months, and I manage all the partnerships with the media industry, working with news publishers, broadcasters, journalists, creators of content to help them get the most from the platform, really focusing on audience growth, using the technology, and also, of course, monetizing the content.
Very important, that last one.
Yeah.
So I will ask you the killer question that everybody wants me to ask you. Is Facebook, are you a platform or a publisher?
Facebook is a platform for publishers. It's a platform for individuals, but it's a new type of platform. You know, the technology is changing quickly. The industry itself is changing quickly, and it's hard to apply, I would say, traditional media terminology to what we do. It's a very powerful platform for reaching people instantaneously through video, through text, through photos. And we partner with publishers. We have over 10,000 publishers around the world that are using products like Instant Articles. In countries all over the world, they are connecting directly with people who are consuming their content. They're leveraging the platform to promote their own web pages or their own apps. And so it's a very, I would say, symbiotic relationship that we need to work on. And I think we've invested a lot more in that, in the nature of those relationships in the past year, much more so than when I started, just because it's become so much more critical for us to really listen more to particularly the news and publishing industry and develop products collaboratively so that it really helps support journalism and helps support business models where we hadn't, I think, put as much time into, I think, before we launched the Facebook Journalism Project.
And obviously, your kind of appearance at this conference generated a lot of interest, and we got a lot of people sending us questions to ask you, and some of the senior folks in the industry, we kind of aggregated that together. And the question they wanted me to ask you, which I will now, is if you were one of them, if you were a publisher, this is a room full of publishers, what would be the question that they should ask Facebook?
That's me. Well, I get the questions all the time. I would ask, if you are not already asking this question, and I would hope you are asking this question, is how can I partner with you? How can I get into a relationship with you where I'm able to both support my existing business and generate new audiences and new revenues? That's the most important question. If you feel the revenue isn't enough, the question is, how can I improve those revenues? How can I improve these audiences? And also, how can I learn from your investment in technology so that I can get ahead of the curve? I think this is something that people don't take into account as much when they think about the value proposition of a relationship with a partner like Facebook. Is there's an audience growth, audience development value, and this is where most of the relationships begin. I want to build my audience. There's the direct revenue value, which comes from maybe audience network, Instant Articles, ad breaks, which is very, very new, and then there's the leveraging technology for free to blow out your capabilities that you wouldn't otherwise be able to afford, like live video. You can broadcast live video 24/7 to the world, cost you nothing if you use the platform, or experimentation with WhatsApp, Messenger bots, VR and 360. So it's really, I think, in the range of that I get the most questions.
Sure. In my introduction to the Congress this morning, I described Facebook as both our industry's best friend and its most challenging partner. I know you've only been in there 14 months, I think
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Is that a description you recognize? Is it something that you felt yourself when you came into Facebook? I mean, how would you, is that a fair characterization?
You know, it's interesting. We have very robust relationships, and our closest partners are also, in many ways, are give us the biggest kick to help improve things. And so it's a very healthy dialogue. And what I found when I came into the company, I'm actually a former news journalist. I was with the BBC. I was trained in hostile environment news coverage, and I was in a lot of crazy places. I didn't think that training would be so useful now in this job. And then I worked for different technology companies. I worked for Google and YouTube, and I launched their partnership program.
You were YouTube International Employee #1, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So I was there at in a way, at a time when people said, oh, YouTube's going to destroy television, it's the end of quality programming, it's all about cats on skateboards. I'm like, everybody relax a little bit. You know, it's a new technology. It's now part of the video ecosystem that includes broadcast. There's been all this sort of integration with traditional media as well as new media that you can hardly see the difference between the two, investments by NBC and Vox, and all this stuff slowly comes together, and we're in a similar place now. Facebook really needed to invest heavily, and it's one of the reasons why I was happy to join in, I would say, professionalizing and scaling our way in which we work with partners. And going beyond just managing a relationship, but listening in a systematic way and delivering results based on those conversations. And that's why I'm really happy with the Facebook Journalism Project, which we launched in the beginning of this year, which now, based on conversations, has led to things like putting logos in the story so you recognize the source of the news provider, right? Good feedback. Opening ourselves up to subscriptions to support really great news organizations that have converted their business models or have historically had business models based on subscriptions, and unless we move in that direction, we're not serving journalism, we're not serving them. So that came out of those conversations.
So that's your recognition that paid content is a really important part of the future.
It's always been something that we've recognized. It's just a question of, within the Facebook newsfeed environment, how do you elegantly introduce paid content when it wasn't something native to it? So what we've learned and what we've now we are going to trial quite soon with a number of publications from around the world, different languages, different types, is a process by which you get a number of free articles within Instant Articles, so let's say within the Economist page, and then there's an upsell for a subscription, and then the transaction is seamless in Instant Articles, but you subscribe to the Economist in their own back end. Economist keeps all the revenue, Economist keeps all the data, and Economist keeps the relationship. So that's a really nice symbiotic relationship that we are going to trial, and we hope to expand if that goes well.
I just want to talk a minute about measurement data, and I know this is not necessarily an area that you focus on personally, but I want to put it in the context of openness, because you've already spoken a lot about the various things that Facebook is doing to try and listen to the industry, particularly the publishing industry. You've recently done a number of things with third-party verification programs. You've introduced ComScore, this kind of thing. And I think for many of the people in this room, that was really important. It was really welcome. As we were saying just beforehand, a lot of them just see the blue wall and they don't necessarily get the sense that you guys are listening, but that showed that you are. Is that something we can look forward to more of?
Yeah, I think there are about 24 different third-party measurement companies that we work with around the world. We've been doing it in some capacity since 2008. I think we need to be more forthcoming and share more information. We also have built some really interesting tools for people to monitor their own performance on our platform and on other people's platforms, like the acquisition of CrowdTangle. I don't know if you've used this tool, but
I'll go and try it.
We bought a company called CrowdTangle that it allows you to measure your performance on, let's say, Twitter, on Facebook, and Instagram, for example, and you can measure your own success relative to others.
Right.
We also want to make sure we're being very transparent about how we are being measured. Insights and data are one of the most important things that I think the industry will rely on to make important decisions, and that we want to provide to our partners as well for free, in this case, so that they can make important decisions about where they invest their time and their money.
Two of the things that have come up in our congresses and conferences in recent years that have been really important areas. One, a huge revelation for me about ad fraud, which is a big issue for many of the people in this room. And the other one, of course, being fake news, which is everywhere, that slightly hackneyed phrase now, fake news. I know that you guys have made some real investments and some real kind of initiatives around those areas. You want to just tell us a little bit about both of those?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the idea of fake news news that's intended to deceive or misinform has been around for a very long time. With technology, of course, we have found that there are people who are trying to use the tools, some of the ones that we've created, to misinform, to fool people. A lot of it's been financially motivated, some of it politically motivated. And we, since becoming aware of an increasing amount in the election period, have really committed ourselves to throwing technology, resource, people, and a lot more civic engagement around it at this particular challenge. Whilst it is a small percentage of the content that might be found on the platform, any amount is too much, particularly at sensitive periods around elections. So we've invested a lot in tools, technologies, third-party fact-checking relationships. We've invested in also, I would say, informing the public on how they can best inform themselves, and through PSAs, through trainings. But some of the most effective work has really come through, I think, collaborative product development and developing ways in which that we can identify dodgy sources. And this goes for ads as well now in terms of election integrity and news integrity, making sure that we're getting rid of the worst, those that are out to deceive, those that have no history, that come from somewhere, that maybe buy something, and setting out both technological and human reactions and triggers to make sure we take action and take action quickly. And so the commitment is significant. I think if you want to learn a lot more about it, Mark Zuckerberg did a very nice and I think thorough video about 10 days ago, just before the German elections, on the what we're doing around election integrity and 9 different things, particularly with what's come up now in terms of the Russians meddling, if you like, through the use of technology.
Yeah. I have got a couple more questions, but I'm conscious that we don't have a lot of time left, and I'm sure there are plenty of questions from the audience. So before I ask my last one, does anybody out there have a question they would like to ask Patrick? Don't be shy. We've got catch boxes. Room full of publishers who don't want to ask Facebook a question.
Rare.
Come on, there we go. Here we go. This lady in the front row. Somebody chuck her the catch box, please. Thank you.
Catch box, how cool.
There we go.
Hi, I'm an engagement specialist, so I work with journalists to help them engage with their audience better. And I think a lot of newsrooms as a whole institutionally struggle with the best kinds of engagement to do on Facebook. Should we crowdsource? Should we do some kind of call to action? Should we host a conversation? Should we create a Facebook group? Do you have, from where you sit, do you have an idea of just like what works best, what a Facebook user is going to respond to and want to engage with?
It really depends the type of content. What works for news might be very different for entertainment. And the great thing about a platform like Facebook is that you can try stuff at very low cost and get instant real-time feedback loop and data and adjust yourself. It's the ones that adjust themselves quickly to the data that do the best. And one thing that might work for one partner or creator or user might be completely different. Some people ask me, how often should I post? And I say, well, it depends what it is. How often should I respond to comments? Again, it's just experiment, learn. The data will be your true guide.
And use the analytics that Facebook.
The analytics are great. Yeah, the analytics, a combination of analytics and intuition are always the best. And even when we publish like best practices, once everybody starts doing that, then it ceases to become very effective. It's just like, in advertising. It's similar. So keep trying. And the tools, if you haven't used CrowdTangle or seen these tools, by all means, please do.
Yes, Kelly Puri here in the front row.
So you mentioned earlier about, Facebook being a platform for publishers. But very recently, Facebook bid for cricket rights in India for 3,900 crores. I don't know what that translates in millions, but it's a lot of money.
Right.
That's very much not a platform. I mean, that's very much publishing. Is Facebook going to be bidding for more rights to events and sporting even internationally? Was what we saw in India just a precursor of what's coming?
It's a good question. And you might have also seen that we've announced something in the US called Watch, which is a tab at the bottom of your app or on your page where you can go to see programming that's not a video, that's not just coming through your newsfeed. As more and more video has been coming onto the platform and people are creating more video and sharing more video, We found that the news feed itself, which is a place for sharing photos, sharing videos, sharing articles, sharing all these different wonderful things, we don't want it to become a place that is overwhelmed with video. And so by creating this watch area, we're going to create an environment where people can have planned viewing or go there intentionally to watch video, whether that be video series from somebody that we're working with, or maybe live sports. So we're in this experimental phase right now where we are looking to encourage, in the absence of robust video ads on the platform today, which will be coming, we're not asking rights holders to take risks and put that content on the platform themselves. We're not asking certain content creators to just put it up there and hope for the best. We have a budget to go and experiment and see what kind of content works on the platform. What does a social live streaming experience of cricket look like? What does a short form dating program? We have one about VR dating that's really quite fun that we've commissioned. But it's really about seeding the market, seeing what works, sharing that information, and then ideally, letting 1,000 flowers bloom through people finding a commercial model to upload it onto the platform. So we've dipped our toe in the water there. It doesn't necessarily indicate the direction, but we are working very closely with broadcasters who are also our partners and rights holders in a way that we hope will complement the existing distribution models that exist. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think we have time for one more. I saw Juan with his hand up over there. Do you want to just chuck the... There we go, good throw. You've been playing cricket.
Patrick, just an hour ago, Patricia Hodgson, the chairman of Ofcom here, has declared you a publisher, has said that you should face regulation, and as she's concerned, she's going to recommend to the government that you, Google, Twitter, and YouTube be considered as publishers. That's the opinion of Ofcom. That's the opinion of the British government. The German government believes the same. You seem to be losing this battle of, no, we are a platform for publishers. We're not a publisher.
My answer is actually the same as before. There are lots of different views on this. The Germans have taken one approach, but even that's not, I would say, a consensus in Germany at the moment. There are certain implications when you start to apply certain rules and regulations to platforms that might also have an effect that is unintended with regard to blocking openness and freedom of speech and so forth. So we are a new type of platform. We're a platform not just for publishers, but for people to share their opinions, to be able to openly communicate in a way that doesn't have filters. If they say something or publish something that's against our published community guidelines, then it gets taken down. I think this is an important distinction, right? With Facebook, anyone, anywhere can publish anything and it goes up. This doesn't happen in newspapers. This doesn't happen in broadcast. It happens in an open platform that's meant for people to share, right? Now, once they do that, of course, there may be a number of things, and there are often things up there that shouldn't be there. That's why we have very clear community standards. Things get flagged, things get caught by our AI, things get we are otherwise notified of them, or maybe they're caught in a rights management filter as something that is owned by somebody else. Then it comes down, right? So it's a completely different model. And that's one of the reasons why I spend time in places like this trying to help people understand that applying, I would say, old world and traditional methodology and systems to try and apply that straight out to a platform like ours is interesting. It's a conversation we should have, but it's not necessarily the best way to manage the challenges that they may perceive that they have to address. Does that make sense? Yeah. I remember you from
before we wrap up, we've got about 60 seconds left, so I just wonder if I can ask you the same question that we've been asking everybody so far. How would you characterize the 3 biggest challenges facing Facebook over the next 2 years?
They're the same challenges I think that we face, but also that the industry or anyone in business probably would face. I think particularly those in the technology business. One is moving fast enough. I think a lot of people tend to paint the issues, the challenges that they're facing as something that's perhaps caused or generated by Facebook, but in fact what they're talking about is a general industry trend driven by technology, and it's important to differentiate. So we also are in the midst of a massive technological transformation and a revolution, and we need to move quickly enough to maintain our relevancy. And so that's our challenge, that's your challenge. Can we move quickly enough? The second one is partner with good people, partner with good partners, because it's often the case now where just going it alone is much harder than it used to be, and it may be much more expensive than it should be. So move fast and partner well. And then the third thing is, as the power of these tools become more and more widespread and accessible to people, we, like many of you, I'm sure, on your own blog pages and everything, you have to mitigate the bad by accelerating the good. By just cutting it off because there's some untoward comments or because there's some risk that you can manage with regard to content that you don't want to see there, by just chopping that off at the expense of the freedom of speech that you're trying to engender is also risky. So what can we do to mitigate the bad and accelerate the good? That's also one of our, I think, an industry challenge, but one that we definitely take very seriously.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Great
very
to
much
be here.
Patrick, for your time and for your openness. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
So thank you, Patrick, and thank you, James. We're now taking a very short break, extremely short, so we're reconvening literally in 4 minutes, 17:25. We'll do the UPM and FIPP Rising Stars Awards in this room, and we're joined by everyone from the other two sessions. So just